some concepts, right? There's a dog, and he's on the team, and he's playing on the team. But I feel this is a regulation game, right? Aren't there would be rules to prevent him from playing in a regulation game.
Well, you would think that, but and in fact, in the fantasy of the movie world, it's there are actually no rules that say that dogs can't play basketball.
Okay.
Oh, we didn't hear you come in.
Oh, hello, traveler. Thank you.
Hello, listener. Hello.
Well,
this is welcome to the Frazier on Frazier podcast.
Find a seat. Find a log or a
pull up a chair.
Pull up a chair. Join us.
We were just talking about the movie. So I was just explaining to Wes the premise of the movie Air Bud.
I still don't completely. I completely understood the clown and the legal proceedings, the courtroom stuff. The second we get on the court, my mind just goes completely blank. I just don't understand it.
Okay. Well, I mean, then we probably shouldn't get into the sequels.
All right.
But we're actually supposed to be talking about episode 3 of season 2 of Frasier, the Matchmaker.
The Matchmaker.
Which is the episode where Wes, are you still with me?
I'm still here. I'm
okay.
I'm pulling up the script. I apologize. I've got technical stuff on my end, but I am here.
Wes is having some technical issues today, so I'm when he just suddenly disappears from my screen, I'm worried it means that his internet's just completely given up.
So this is I want to point out again, a shout out to KACL780.net, the website we've been using for all these transcripts. This is the first transcript we're looking at that has reviews of the episode on top.
Yeah, that's weird.
So go ahead.
Yeah, we got a review from Michael Lee.
Yes.
Who gives the episode an A-.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Matthew Barr that gives it a B+.
Around the same grade scale. They both
well, what the heck, Matthew Barr?
Yeah.
Why didn't you think it was deserving of why did you give it a lower score than Michael Lee did?
Probably homophobia, if I had to bet. If I had to throw out a guess. I think homophobia can take something down 5 grade points.
So Matthew Barr, he's not my favorite reviewer.
Really?
I'm more of a Michael Lee guy.
Oh, sure, of course. I do want to say both of these reviews, so I started to do some research about 15-20 minutes before we got started recording, and this is before the Air Bud conversation, of course. But right. Both of these reviews call out Joe Keenan, who wrote... This is the first episode he has a writing credit on, and he goes on to executive produce a number of episodes. And this is the first episode he has a writing credit on, and it's gotten, I believe it was nominated for a number of awards, including a GLAAD Media Representation Award, which you get when your TV show is cool to gay people, and that's dope.
Yeah.
But
maybe we should explain what the episode's actually about.
Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm still at the top of the script, which has all the... Yeah, I just want to say I was correct. It won an Emmy and an Entertainment Weekly Reader's Favorite and a Writers Guild Comedy Award and a Directors Guild and a GLAAD Media. So I want to point out that the...
But apparently it's not good enough for Matthew Barr.
No, that's a B+ for Matthew Barr. Matthew Barr, not good enough for him. But
doesn't meet my standards.
Very clearly. I mean, the 2 episodes ago, I think we had a directing award won, and the episode after that, we had a writing award won. This season of Frasier is just racking up a number of awards. I think we've covered everything at the top of the transcript, and now let's talk about what this episode actually is.
So, this episode, it's a pretty classic premise, classic TV sitcom premise. We got Frasier, who is trying to set up Daphne with a date.
Right.
The new boss, the new station manager at KACL. Mr. Tom Duran.
Yes.
Duran.
Tom. I feel like they pronounced it Duran. but I can't, I could. Maybe I'm probably wrong.
It's Tom Durian. He's like a weird spiky fruit.
Yes. Well, Adam, I don't think you can call them that.
Well, I walked into that one. So, he's played by Eric Lutz.
Yep.
From Caroline in the City. Another classic 90s sitcom.
He did. I did see his face, and I was like, "Where do I know him from?" And no, yeah, he's a good-looking guy. He's got pretty good comedic timing, although you wouldn't know it. We'll get into it, but I'm very excited to talk about his character and the way the studio audience receives his character.
Yes. So let's get into the first scene. We've got we start off. So this is the episode that always makes me think that there's like an alarm going off in my apartment because it starts off with like a fire alarm.
Right.
And I'm like and I always hear I'll have Frasier just like playing in the background of my apartment. Just you know, just to have background noise and stuff.
Sure.
And whenever this episode comes on, I'll have a moment of thinking that my fire alarm's going off. Mm-hmm. So it's the fire alarm in Frasier's apartment is going off. Mm-hmm. Everyone's kind of panicking. Frasier's like, "Oh my God, fire!" And Martin's calling for Eddie, and it's complete pandemonium.
There's a level of chaos and fear. When you watch other sitcoms, usually a fire has they put some comedic timing in the fire. Unless it's like Webster, where the plot of the episode... I don't know if you've ever seen the episode of Webster where the entire apartment catches on fire. That is played completely straight, but also with weird bits like Webster throwing a glass of water on the fire, but then they lose all their possessions in the fire. And this is different in that this fire doesn't end up too bad, but you do see Frasier freaking out and trying to get his dad out of the house while Martin prioritizes Eddie. They handle it very realistically, and the comedy is derived not from like wacky sitcom jokes, but from the fact that they don't quite match up in their priorities in this hypothetical fire.
Right. But we soon find out that there is no fire. Daphne comes running in, and she's just saying, it's fine. The one above my bed went off." Mm-hmm. And she was like, well, Martin's like, "Well, what triggered it?" And Daphne's like, "Who knows? It just started beeping, and it just did it for no reason at all." Mm-hmm. And then Eddie runs up and jumps up on the chair, and he has a pack of cigarettes in his mouth.
And Frasier says, "Oh, Eddie, you've been smoking in Daphne's bedroom. Bad, because she's caught." Frasier knows. Frasier doesn't... even though we've just covered that there's a world where a dog can play basketball, Frasier, while believing in psychics, does not believe the dog would smoke cigarettes. Occam's razor, more likely that Daphne smoked the cigarettes, but the dog can grab a cigarette.
There's no rule in the rule book that says a dog can't smoke cigarettes.
But there is a fire code thing, and that's not just for dogs. You can't smoke in the building.
The twist of the episode is that Eddie does have a crippling addiction to nicotine.
No, yeah, it's sad.
So Frasier scolds Daphne. Daphne's like, "Well, yeah, I know you have a no smoking in the apartment rule," because Frasier he wants to keep his apartment nice. He doesn't want to have smoke smell all the time. Mm-hmm. But she says, sometimes I really find that a ciggy takes the edge off.
Right.
Of my depressing life.
Of how sad I am all the time. I'm so alone. I'm so very alone. And Frasier is like, "Okay, I'm gonna," and then he starts to leave, and then Daphne is sad, and he comes back and asks to talk about it, and she's like, "Yep, I'm very, very alone." At first she's like, "My love life makes me sad," and he's like, "Oh, have you been seeing a man?" And she says, "Only when I close my eyes and concentrate." Yeah. And she points out something that we haven't considered before or seen before. Obviously, Daphne is Martin's caretaker or live-in nurse, so obviously they spend a lot of time together. And what we might not have considered before is that obviously some men would see Daphne with this dude and not want to approach her either assuming it's her boyfriend or her dad. And either way, it's like having a personal can of stud repellent, as Daphne refers to it.
All right.
Yeah.
So they get it. So they have this conversation. Frazier he tries to comfort her. He's a psychiatrist. He tries to help people. He talks about, I once dated a girl back at a bar at Cheers. He's talking about Diane Chambers.
He's talking about Diane Chambers.
Right, and we go through the whole. If you've seen Cheers, you know the story. He and Diane Chambers, they had a thing going, but they got engaged, and she left him at the altar.
If you haven't,
very depressing.
If you haven't, I hope we're not spoiling Cheers. I hope you haven't. I do want to cover.
That is the entire arc of like the third season of Cheers.
I hope we're not spoiling too deep into Cheers, because I do want to say I haven't plugged it yet on this podcast, but a friend of mine and we record his name is Jeremy Cheers, and the podcast is called Cheers on Cheers. And I actually recorded that before.
But it's spelled differently, right?
It is, of course it's spelled differently, Adam. That's not the point. But I hope you still decide to listen to that podcast, even though we just spoiled it on the Sister spinoff podcast.
Right. Well, Jeremy Cheers is going to hear from my lawyers.
Of course he will.
So yeah, talking about Diane, and also he talks about Lilith. Mm-hmm. Their divorce. The fact that he's living with his father. Yeah. He takes one of the cigarettes away from Daphne, and he starts, smoking along with her.
Because his love life isn't going great either. Scene.
Yeah,
it's fun.
It's depressing, but it's fun.
Yeah.
So I mean, his life is pathetic, but it's fun.
It's fun and sad. I mean, Frasier as a show has no problem courting the depression and comedy in the same stroke, and it is fun. It's fun.
Right. So we get to our next scene. We're in Cafe Nervosa. Mm-hmm. It's the next morning, I assume. Yeah. Roz is there. Frasier is sitting at one of their usual tables. And Roz is like, "Oh, I missed you at the meeting. You are with our new station manager." And Frasier's like, "Oh yeah, well I forgot about that. I was up until all hours with the night with Daphne, and we were competing to see which one of us had the most pathetic love life. On the bright side, I won." So, and then, so the bright side is that he has the more pathetic love life,
which is not a thing. I see. It's like a flick, because you wouldn't be the winner for being the loser, but he won. Yeah, I see. That makes sense. So Roz is like, "Well, I know what your problems are. What are Daphne's?" And Frasier explains she's not finding men. And Roz immediately opens a little black book out of her purse and is ready to give away some of the numbers she obtains on a regular basis to Daphne. And then Frasier's like, "You don't have to donate one of your boyfriends." And Roz would love to. And Frasier says, "One hates to break up a collection," which is fun.
Yeah. Because Roz collects men.
Yeah.
So Niles comes in. He orders his coffee, and he sits with him, and he makes a snide comment about the coffee,
about the chocolate shavings being of an inferior domestic brand.
Yeah. It's very, very picky, that Niles.
Mm-hmm.
So he overhears the conversation him and Frasier and Roz are having about all the men that Roz wants to set Daphne up with. Mm-hmm. And Niles is like, "Oh, well, what are you looking for?" And Roz is like, "I'm helping Frasier find a man for Daphne." Mm-hmm. And this news does not seem to go down well with Niles.
He is quietly furious immediately.
He experiences a full range of emotions on his face.
It's a whole wave of incredulity, followed by anger, followed by shock, followed by more incredulity, and then he has to say what, as if the only way this makes sense if he misheard what happened. That's what's going on. Meanwhile, Roz cuts in and says, "Oh, I found the perfect guy. This is after Sven and after Gunther. If these guys weren't a hit, you're gonna love Brick, because he's a tennis instructor." And Niles says, "Dear God, Frazier, Sven, Gunther, Brick, why not lather Daphne up with baby oil and hurl her over the wall of a prison yard?" Which is just fantastic. Just a great line, great visual.
It's a good line.
And also perfectly exemplifies Niles' outrage for the situation.
So and Roz she's upset with Niles for comparing her boyfriends to, or comparing her to. Well, what's she mad about? Oh, right, because Roz says, "Oh, excuse me, I dated these guys," and Niles is like, "Well, where did you think I get the imagery about the woman getting thrown over the prison walls?"
Kind of doubling down on Roz being, yeah.
Right. So Roz calls him a titmouse. Which I don't think you're allowed to say on television.
No, not in this day and age. Not since decency laws were passed.
But yeah, Niles, Frazier and kind of breaks up the fight. He says, Roz, Niles has a point. You and Daphne date entirely different types of men.
And they point out that Daphne is shy and inexperienced, which is odd because she's an adult. And I don't think we play her incredibly young. We've also seen her go out with guys like Bulldog. I think we've seen her go out with men before. So it's an odd characterization.
Although with Bulldog, I don't think she meant to. That was the episode where they did the
auction,
the bachelor auction.
Yeah. So, and she was bidding just to because it was so quiet in the room. So I'm not saying, yeah. So, but I believe we've seen her go out with other gentlemen. So, but I don't.
Yeah, but it does seem like they play her younger in the first couple seasons. But I mean, she seems like around Roz's age.
Approximately, I would think so, but I don't know.
Yeah. In any case, Frazier just objects to the idea that Roz would set her up with one of her boyfriends. He wants to play the matchmaker.
He wants someone that's a little more has more substance. And Roz gets offended and is like, "Not one man I've ever dated is good enough for Dad." Is that what you're trying to say? And then Frazier's like, "I'm not trying to say that, and you're not making it very easy for me to not say that." And that's the last straw. Roz wants to get out of here, and then Frazier asks her to please wait. And then he said, "No, I can't stay. The fleet's in, because there's a whole navy of men that she's going to be entered by, because she's as Niles and Frazier think of her, she's a floozy that would be entered so easily."
Is that the joke? I couldn't. I mean, I kind of thought that, but I didn't quite know what the fleet meant.
I think that's a military. I think that's I think that's the joke.
Okay. Well, moving on.
Along.
We get to KACL. It's Frazier's doing a show. There's just this piercing tone coming over the speaker system, and Frazier and Roz are just kind of listening to it. And then Frazier, the sound stops, and Frazier's like, "Well, this concludes our test of the emergency broadcast system. Had this been an actual emergency, your radio would be melting in your hands." which is a line that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would be holding your radio though.
And I assume if it had started melting, you would have thrown it across the room. But either way,
not only that, but how many people just have a radio in their hand while they listen? I don't know.
Well, what if you're listening to Frasier AM talk radio? What if you're listening to him on one of those boom boxes that was very popular? I'm going to switch to the camera briefly so you can get a visual here. So you've got a boom box on your shoulder, and you're just cranking it, and you're listening to the smooth words of Dr. Frazier Crane. And then all of a sudden, the emergency! It's melting on my shoulder and my hands. So I think that's the accuracy there.
Yeah, thank you for turning on your camera and demonstrating it to our podcast listening audience.
I think it's important to call a visual bit when you do it on a podcast.
Okay. So, yeah. Roz is still upset with Frasier because he insulted her and her taste in men.
Yeah.
He left some food on her console, and she gives him some crap for it.
Gives him some guff.
Right, some guff. Some sass.
Some old sass. Can of beans. Can of beans and attitude.
So Frasier tries to apologize, and he explains, he just feels very protected of Daphne. He's looking for a certain kind of man, someone who's good looking, smart, successful, and then right on cue, Tom Durian walks in, the new station manager. Walks in, and he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm Tom. I'm the new station manager. Look at me." And
that is, he does say that exactly. He says exactly that.
He does like a Mr. Meeseeks thing.
Yep.
So Frasier's like, "Oh, well, it's great to meet you," and they kind of hit it off.
Right.
Tom is complimenting Frasier's tie. They're talking about men's fashion and shopping in London.
I want to chime in. This is something I detected very early, and I wasn't sure what the deal was. But so I will say, and I think that the show is very funny. Of course, I feel like Frasier's live audience is very kind at pushing some things over the. If something is like a hit or miss kind of joke, the audience that is watching the show will usually laugh and push it over, and you go like, okay, that's funny. Tom has a couple punchlines in this initial back and forth where Frasier meets Tom, like the thing where Frasier's like, I'm sorry, I missed the meeting this morning because I slept right through it, and Tom goes, oh yeah, me too, and I was there at the meeting, and there is dead silence. People do not, the crowd hates Tom right off the get-go, and I'm not sure. And later he has a line where he's asking, like, Frasier's like, why'd you leave London if you liked it so much? And Tom is like, oh well, I had a messy breakup. I thought I'd sleep better with a continent between us, which is a very sitcom-y, like, oh, see, I got some lines in me, and the audience gives him nothing. And I don't know if it's because they don't like Tom Durian or they're not used to like Frasier being the one that says punchlines. But Frasier, like audibly, Kelsey Grammer is the only one laughing at Tom Durian's lines, and it is uncomfortable. And we'll get into maybe I don't know. We'll speculate when we get there. But
do you think it's like that on Caroline in the City? Like whenever he has a joke, like there's no response from the audience.
Like the middle brother from Horsing Around, like on those where just nobody laughs at the things. Yes, I wonder if it's exactly like that on. I wonder if he has lines like this and they still script out pauses, but they just don't even bother having a studio audience, so there's just silence. I imagine that's what it's like.
Right. Yeah.
But I feel like that's gonna. That might come up later, so I wanted to call it out now.
Right. Okay. I think I have a cousin, Caroline, who does a Caroline in the City podcast.
Oh.
Caroline on Caroline.
I would prefer if you didn't plug your family members' stuff on this podcast, Adam.
Okay, fine.
Well, no, we'll put the link in the description. Of course,
yeah.
Check the description. We'll put it in there. Of course, we will.
Right. There definitely won't be like a redirect to like a Rickroll video or something.
No, that we would never do that. We would never.
Yeah. So so Frasier and Tom, they hit it off. They're talking about, Tom lived in London. He misses London. The people there were so eccentric, and he misses them. And Frasier's like, oh, so you're fond of the English. And you can see sort of like the twinkle in Frasier's eye.
The gears in his head are turning, and he's got one of his classic Frasier ideas that never get him into trouble.
This is a smart, cultured, good-looking man who loves the English, He listens to opera, and I wanna get him together with my housekeeper. So
that does sum up the idea, doesn't it?
So, so before he leaves, Frazier's like, "Oh, Tom, well, this may sound like short notice, but if you're not busy Saturday, how would you like to come around my place for dinner? Nothing fancy." And Tom, of course, agrees. So Frazier's like, "Great." And Tom exits Frazier's side of the recording studio, walks back around and enters through Roz's end. So, and he starts up a conversation with Roz, and Tom's like, "Oh, well, you know, it's like every job I take is the same thing. It's like fight. The world flies with." What is this? What is this line?
The word flies like wildfire, as in the word, like rumors will fly around like a wild. They'll spread very quickly.
Right. So he. So basically, he's talking about So Tom is under the impression, and we learned this from his conversation with Roz, that Tom is under the impression that Frazier asked him out on a date. And he's wanting to go on a date with Frazier because Tom assumes that Frazier is gay.
Right. I mean, he's assuming that he was asked out to dinner, so he makes a reasonable assumption that Frazier is attracted to him. And also, the assumption and the erroneous thing is that because he has told a couple people around the station that he's gay, it's gotten to everyone. And Frazier, a fellow gay man, is jumping on the opportunity to ask out another gay man that works at the office.
Is it weird that like he's been here for like a day? He's the new station manager. He's everybody's boss, and he's just telling people that he's gay.
Well, Adam, first of all, you could disclose what Adam, I'm beginning to get worried about you between between calling people fruits and the radio broadcasting is not like the army. I know that Roz brought up the fleet earlier. You can ask and you can tell. Outside of
it's just, how does that come up though?
I mean,
how do you organically bring that up?
I mean, I don't know. It could be something where somebody else, like Tom was particularly selective when he was talking to Frazier, but someone else might have been like, "So why did you leave London?" And he'd be like, "Oh, instead of my ex was a dick," they would be like, "My boyfriend was a dick, and I wanted to get a continent," and they would go, "Oh, okay,
gotcha.
You're gay."
No, that makes sense.
There are ways to disclose it without announcing, "Hey, I'm a big old gay guy," and then and they go,
"No, well, I assume that's what I assumed he was telling."
He walks into rooms and he was like, "I got a big old, I'm a gay man," and they're like, "Well, you've got the job. I appreciate it. I've got
a big old heart on for dudes."
Well, that's our one requirement for our station manager, so I'll just put a check next to that box and throw everyone else's resumes away. You've got the job.
Oh, I mean,
Adam, I just want to cut in. Do you think we're going to get a glad episode for this podcast episode? Do you think we're going to...
Oh, no. They've already...
Oh, okay.
They have already blacklisted us. They have already said we're not going to have these people at any of our events.
Man, all right. Well, we'll work on it. We'll definitely.
Yeah, we will. We'll try and we'll
I'm trying. All right, let's keep.
This will not be the last episode where someone is mistaken for gay.
Sure.
So we'll do a better job next time.
We've got future shots coming up. Come back to us. Give us a chance.
Stay tuned.
Please.
And watch us completely blow it.
So Roz has a very brief window to let Tom know that he has misunderstood the situation and that Frazier is not a gay man. And instead, Frazier, again playing off the initial thing, interprets Roz talking to him as like, "Oh, Roz is going to lock him down," and then so he puts up a piece of paper that says he's taken, and Roz, continuously like assumed to be a flute by Frazier, doesn't save him from this awkward situation and this awkward dinner, and just lets Tom know that he loves Chardonnay because Tom asks is there a particular wine that he likes, and Roz just tells him. And that's that scene, and we get real quick into the dinner.
Right. And was it Roz's intention to recommend something other than sherry? Because we know that Frazier is a avid sherry drinker.
Oh, do you think that she's not only did she let this happen, but she specifically picked not his favorite drink?
I think
that's a power move. I respect that.
So, yeah, we cut to Frazier's apartment. It's Saturday evening. Daphne and Frazier are setting a table, getting ready for the date, the dinner.
Yeah.
And Daphne, she's pretty. It seems as though she's kind of upset with Frazier that she basically set him up on a blind date with this random person who works at the radio station.
Yes.
But Frazier's like, well, Tom's great. He doesn't even know you're gonna be here. It'll be fine. And Daphne's like, I don't think so.
Yeah. It's gonna be super cash. Like basically, he thinks he's coming over for to hang out with a coworker, and you'll happen to be there, and we'll just kind of feel out whatever happens is Frazier's strategy. Frazier goes on and on about how it's no pressure and it's just going to be fun hanging, and then he asks Daphne, is that what you're going to wear? And she is wearing a pretty standard dress, and Daphne's like, what's wrong? And Frazier suggests something in her closet, a little strapless number, something with a little bit more oomph, and he motions down to his hips, and Daphne's like, do you have any idea how uncomfortable a strapless bra is? And Frazier says, well, thanks to my fraternity day, as a matter of fact, I do, because he wore a strapless bra in his fraternity days.
And thanks to our Rocky Horror days, we both know how uncomfortable a strapless bra can be.
It is a physics equation. It's one of those that you just don't have any support, and it's very tight because you don't have the upward support. And I feel like if everybody had to put on if that was a class in high school or middle school where you had to put on a strapless bra, I think the world would be a better place.
Cross-dressing 101.
I think that's something we should all do.
Okay. I'd be fine with that.
So let's see. Where do we? Okay, so he go. Daphne runs off to change into the strapless number. He lets Tom in, who brought Chardonnay. He can follow directions and stuff, which is great. Tom. So at first, Frazier asks what he thinks of the place. Tom looks out and sees this beautiful Seattle skyline. And he's like, that's a hell of a view. And Frazier says, it's even better from the bedroom. As if 10 seconds into letting this guy in, he's going to take him to the bedroom. And Tom is, of course, a little like, oh, why don't let's start with a drink and then not, we'll get there when we get there. And Frazier laughs without realizing that he came on to this guy and the way that might have come off.
Right.
Tom notices there are 4 places at dinner, and he's like, "Oh well." Frazier says my dad and his physical therapist are going to join us, and me and you. And then Tom is like, "Oh, you live with your dad?" And he asks if it interferes with Frazier's love life because he believes he was just invited on a date, and his dad, Frazier's dad, is going to be there. And Frazier says the only awkward thing is when he brings his dates home, he tries to steal them. And Tom this is a very awkward first 20 seconds of a date, whether or not it's with a gay man. If you would, and somebody said, if you went on a date with somebody and they were like, hey, a parent of mine is going to be there, and they will also be in contention, possibly trying to steal you from me. And if that's the case, what will be, what will be. That's not even a gay thing. That's just shocking. Whether or not you're gay, I think it's a lot. And then Frazier calls him quite the old rascal, which doesn't assuage Tom's fears at all.
Right.
Right.
It would be very awkward if you went on a date and suddenly it was like The Bachelorette and you had to multiple people competing for you.
Right. Especially if some of them are parent-child couple, Have they ever done that where on a season of The Bachelor, like you get a dad and then you get a son and they're both competing, and maybe you bring the grandfather in later, like that?
Wes, that is our show now. That is the reality show that you and I are making.
I'm copywriting it today. It's
this is a proof. This is now a proof of concept.
Yes.
We're gonna write this down on a piece of paper, email, and mail it to ourselves.
Mail it in a letter to ourselves. Adam, I have never caught lightning in a bottle before, but this feels like what it feels like right now.
Yeah.
No.
So stay tuned for whatever we call this show, son and father dating.
Yep. That's the title. That's the title right there.
Something better than that, though.
Pick the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
There it is.
There's something like that.
And neither does the date.
Yep.
I want to say something more offensive, but I don't.
Working title. We'll have it but trust me. But keep that in the back of your mind, listener, because by the end of the episode, we will have something filthy ready for you.
Right.
Okay.
So, Daphne, Daphne comes back. She comes back in with the strapless dress.
Yep.
And Frazier's like, "Oh, well, look who we have here, Tom. I'd like you to meet Daphne. She's she cleans my house."
Yeah, that's kind of. And then
he doesn't say that.
No, but he's like, "This is Daphne. Daphne, this is Tom." And Daphne is like, "Oh, you didn't take his coat," to get behind him so they can mouth things to each other. And Daphne reveals she's super amped. He's a very attractive man. And Frazier confirms that she also looks very nice to get her confidence way up. And things are looking great on Team Daphne and Frazier's perspective. This could not be going better.
And Daphne says she's getting a vibe off of one of Tom's coat, and it's how Tom learns that Daphne thinks that she's psychic.
Yep.
And you know those English eccentrics that he's so fond of.
And Daphne reveals that from his coat
she
demonstrates that he went through a very painful breakup, and Tom is like, "Oh, you told her about it, didn't you?" And then Daphne reveals that there was a bitter dispute about who owned which opera recordings. And Tom is like, "Well, damn, okay, you're psychic." And somehow the rest of we don't keep cutting back to Tom asking Daphne, like, "So how do I die?" Like, questions. I feel like that would kind of wreck the rest of the evening if, like, I don't know if you can talk about, like, sports and the weather after somebody reveals they have psychic abilities. But, so again, despite all evidence to the contrary and despite how my brain works, somehow Daphne having psychic powers doesn't derail the rest of the episode. But
I mean, it does. It's strange that it doesn't derail the entire series,
right?
in my opinion,
I feel like how can we have a TV show about this
someone who is clearly psychic,
right? I mean, she had, despite Mind Your Knickers, which, as far as we're aware, didn't even cover her psychic abilities. It was just about her being a youth in Britain.
Right. So how could you have a show about someone who is clearly psychic and not one episode is about them utilizing their psychic powers to, like, solve murders, or get into That's So Raven-esque hijinks.
But as you have told me, the only spoiler you've given me for the rest of the is that we will never really get into it.
So So anyway, Daphne's psychic.
Yep.
So we also Tom is introduced to Martin. Martin enters the room. He doesn't know that Tom's there, so when he walks in, he's like, "Hey, do I have to put a tie on for this Joker?" And Frazier's like, "Dad, stop talking." And they introduce one another. Martin tries to sort of do some backtracking. He's like, "Oh, well, I call everybody Joker and jerk and pinhead.
Bozo." And Frazier goes, and amazingly, he's free for dinner on short notice, which is very fun.
So it's at that point that Frazier goes into the kitchen where Daphne is. And Daphne and Frazier, they have a conversation. They're talking about, they're both very pleased with themselves. Right. Frazier thinks he's doing a great job as a matchmaker, and Daphne thinks she's really lucky to be sort of set up with this very handsome looking man.
Yeah.
Both of them blissfully unaware of the awkwardness that is soon to ensue.
Right.
So yeah, we go back to Martin and Tom. They're having a conversation. Martin's telling him about Duke's, where he hangs out, and he talks about how there's a great crowd. There's a lot of young cops.
Yeah.
Which
Tom gets a look on his face like, wow, okay, this is very straightforward. All of this, I can't be misreading this situation.
Again, Tom is viewing this all through the lens of, well, Frazier is gay, his father is gay,
right? And
so
yeah, Martin,
everything has sort of a double entendre.
And Martin has sort of Martin asks if he likes football, and Tom is like, I really missed it when I was living in London. And Martin reveals, oh, well, I can take you to a Seahawks game sometimes, but Frazier hates it, so it'd just be us. And these are all innocuous, true statements. But from Tom's perspective, and given the it seems like a come on, hey, we should go on a date later, just you and me, away from my son. Which is very, yeah. Tom's like, Frazier warned me about you. And Martin goes, yeah, I guess I yell at the players too loud. Which is a misunderstanding. Pretty fun. Yeah.
Frazier comes back from the kitchen. He's brought wine with him. He gives Martin. He selected a vintage for Martin, which is just a beer.
Yep. A Ballantine, which we've established is Martin's preferred brand of beer, and he says "Merci beaucoup," but he doesn't say it like that. He says "Merci beaucoup," which is not. That's a very American
nonsense.
It's not French.
Bone apple teeth.
Bone apple teeth is what he would say.
There's a doorbell ring. Frazier goes to answer it, and it's Niles standing there in the doorway. Mm-hmm. He's there to return a book. He notices that there are people in Frazier's apartment, and Niles is like, oh, well, am I interrupting something? And Frazier's like, yes, I'm introducing this man to Daphne. And Niles is like, oh, well, I guess you don't want me around then. And then he just sort of sidesteps Frazier, walks in, and he's like, hi, I'm Niles Crane.
I'm Dr. Niles Crane. And Tom introduces himself, and Daphne says, birds all, I just need a big... the bird is done. Chicken or turkey. I just need a big, strong pair of arms to haul it out of the oven. And now it's like, well, I don't need to be asked twice. And he walks to the kitchen to Daphne.
Trying to be the show off, trying to sort of undercut.
Trying to be the defensive end that intercepts the intended connection.
Yes, thank you, Wes, for that for that analogy. I couldn't have made it better.
Really quick, I just want to say the title of the show is Like Father, ? Like Son, : smiley face.
Like grandfather?
Yeah, you gotta put it all there. Yeah, no, I feel like that's not dirty, but it is also the dirtiest thing possible without filth in the so I'm glad we got there.
When you find out what the actual show's about, it becomes horrifying.
I thought of it, what you said, you had a line earlier, and the reason I didn't react is because I was thinking of it, and the entire time I was like, do I hang on to this until the end of the podcast episode? And I was like, I'm going to forget about it. I need to say it now. And we are on the Act 1 break, so I figured this would be the perfect time to slip it in.
Sure, of course.
Which is a thing that people that's a game you play on Like Father, Like Son. Is slip it in. Anyway, let's keep
Okay.
going.
We get to the dinner. It's sort of during dinner after it's winding down. Mm-hmm. Tom is explaining the plot of Air Bud to the rest of the Fraziers.
Yeah.
We kind of just come in towards the very end of the conversation.
And Martin is like, so nobody has the dog is on the court. I understand that, but there's not a rule. And Tom, you'd think so, of course. But a referee comes out with a rule book, and the coach is yelling, and he says, there's nothing in the rules. And Martin says, well, that kind of covers my question, so I'll drop it. Proceed.
So Yeah. So they're cleaning up from the dinner. Niles goes into the kitchen. And Tom follows him, and Tom is like, Niles, may I speak with you for a moment? And Niles, he slaps down his silverware because he does not like Tom. He is after his Daphne, in Niles' mind. Niles is like, sure, let's have a talk. And Tom is like, well, I was wondering if I did anything to offend you.
Yeah, Tom is being the adult in the situation. He's like, hey, clearly there's some awkward energy, and I'd like to talk it out. And Niles is being a little immature, and Tom reveals, okay, I'm a little worried because you're being a little huffy, and I'm worried that you have a problem with me. I sensed you might have a problem with me dating Frazier. And Niles goes, well, if you must know. And then one of my favorite acting bits up to this point in the show is Niles.
Entire range of emotion.
David Hyde Pierce washing very, very gradually. You can see it from anger to glee to confusion. It goes anger, confusion, and then relaxed happiness. Eventually, we get to elation. But he's like, I'm sorry, what's the question? And then Tom clarifies, do you have some problem with me dating your brother? And Niles is ecstatic, and he's like, no. And then Frazier, before they can talk any further, Frazier says, Niles, I didn't ask Tom to dinner so we could talk with you all night. There are others who would like to have a crack at him. And just wonderful. Frazier continues to say these things, and Niles almost explodes into hysterics. He is so... He does, as the script points out, he twirls in a sort of dance of joy, and David Hyde Pierce is, as we've said before, I can't overstate it, fantastic physical actor, and he does great with this. The next couple minutes, he does great. It's amazing.
It's at this point, so Frazier sort of whisks Tom away, and Martin enters the kitchen where Niles is, and Martin's like, "Oh, Tom's a great guy. Do you think maybe him and Daphne will, And
Niles shakes his head and laughs and goes like, "Mm-mm" at the same time, and it's very good.
So we cut to the balcony, Frazier's balcony, and it's Tom, Frazier, and Daphne, and they're having some conversation. Tom is like, I can't remember the last time I had such a wonderful evening, and Daphne's like, oh well, we should thank you. I can't remember when we've laughed so hard. At that moment we hear from the kitchen Martin laughing because clearly Niles has told him what the game is, what's happening. The fact that
all the cards are laid out on the table, and
right.
Martin laughs at the same thing Niles has observed, and it is funny.
Right. So Tom. Eventually we're. It's just what Daphne she leaves. I think she goes to put on some music, and as soon as Daphne leaves, Tom is like, well, hey, Frazier, do you think at some point during the evening we could get a little one-on-one time? And again, Frazier thinks that Tom is talking about Daphne. Tom is actually talking about Frazier.
Right.
Frazier replies, oh, I think that can be arranged.
And he goes inside. Daphne's putting on music. Frazier points at Daphne. He wants to be alone with you. And then Daphne says, "This is my lucky bra. I'll go fix my lipstick." And Frazier decides to get everybody to their respective places. Martin decides to go to bed. He doesn't want to get in the way of young romance, and he hides a grin. And Martin takes his leave. And then Niles is thrust. Frazier says, "Niles, isn't it time you were running along?" And Niles. It says he must apologize. He's wrong about Tom. If he had to pick one man for Daphne, he's the one he'd pick, which is very
that is also a very funny line.
It is. I think it's a line called out by at the top. If I recall correctly, I believe Matthew Barr calls out that line as one of the great lines of the episode. Of course, he gave it a B+. So who gives a shit what he thinks?
Yeah, who cares what Matthew Barr thinks? So Niles does call upon Frazier as he's leaving. He needs to tell him something, so they step out into the hallway, and Niles is like, "Oh well, I have something to tell you. Dad wanted to, but I won the coin toss."
But with the timing on David Hyde Pierce, he says it. There's something I have to tell you. Dad wanted to, and the perfect amount of pause, as if like there was an emotional like debate. Someone should let him know. But the reveal that he won is the reveal. They were both very excited to tell him, and had to had to flip a coin on who would get the privilege of telling Frazier that this was the situation.
So yes, Niles reveals to Frazier that in fact Tom is not pursuing Daphne; he is pursuing Frazier.
There's again very 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 gradually revealed. He's not after Daphne, and Frazier goes, "Damn that Roz," and Niles goes, "No, it's you. It's you. It's you gay guy.
You weird, you silly man.
You silly. It was you.
You always get yourself into these hijinks, Frazier.
It's always been you, Frazier. Frazier, it's always been you." And Frazier goes, "That's impossible. Tom's not gay." And Niles like, "He seems to think he's gay." So that I feel like that we can be pretty confident that he's a gay guy. And Frazier goes, "Well, what could make him think I was interested in him? All I did was ask him if he was attached, and then we talked about the theater and men's fashion." And then there's a pause where Kelsey Grammer realized, oh my God. Again, very good acting on, just very good acting this whole episode. And Niles says, Frazier says, "Niles, do you realize what this means?" And Niles says, "Yes, you're dating your boss. You of all people should know the pitfalls of an office relationship," which very fun. And then Frazier says, Frazier is befuddled and perplexed on how he ended up in this situation, because up to this point he's thought he's made all the right moves as a matchmaker, and instead has been courting his boss, who is a gay man. And before he can put the pieces together, when Niles is there, Niles goes into the elevator and says, "I'll call you tomorrow, but not too early, of course." And the door closes at just the right moment. Great stage work, great blocking, great line delivery from both of these people. Frazier comes back into the room. The script says he's sweating like a pig and is red as a beetroot. He is visibly a little bit nervous. Daphne has put on some romantic music, and Tom is lounging on the couch in a very...
He's like splayed out on the couch.
Kind of like, if you haven't seen the episode, if you like to listen to this and then watch the episode, if you've seen that bit in Jurassic Park where Jeff Goldblum...
I was just going to say, he's splayed out on the couch. He's got his chest exposed like Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park.
Exactly. I'm glad we both went there. I'm glad we both made it there. So Tom is very suggestively like, "So," and Frazier is like, "So." God, I hate this song. And he runs over and he turns the stereo off. And Tom, wanting to maintain the moment, is like, "I've broken my rule for you. I usually don't date guys I work with." And Frazier says, "Yeah, well, I've sort of relaxed my rule for you too." And Tom goes, "You're cute when you're nervous," as to continue to press on Frazier. And Frazier, "I must be downright adorable now then." And finally reveals, "Listen, I'm sorry, but we seem to have gotten our lines crossed. I'm a straight person." And Tom is a little, he plays it comfortably. He puts on his glasses. He's like, "If you're not interested, just say so." And Fraser's like, "Oh, no, it's true. I am. I just invited you to dinner because you seem so charming and you were fond of the British. I thought you might be the perfect man for And as he says that, right. Daphne starts to come in, and Tom says, "I can't believe this. You had no idea that I'm gay?" And then Daphne stops, unclasps her
so
lucky...
great because it's so great because she walks right in and does like an about face. As soon as she hears Tom say that he's gay, it's so well timed, and again, it's great physical, act comedy.
Yep.
The look on Daphne's face as she just sort of tosses her bra in the air, because what's the point?
What's the point? Fuck. And
I'm gonna go to my room and smoke a cigarette.
Presumably, and that I feel like that might have been too much, but I would have. Yeah. It would have been funny if the scene ended just after Tom left with the fire alarm going off again. But not everything has to be a callback, and I'm comfortable with that. So that is not how the episode ends, just so you know. Instead, Frazier reveals that it never even occurred that to him that Tom could be gay, and Tom says, "It never occurred to me that you might be a straight person." And then Frazier's like, "Thank you," which is so funny. And then Tom is like, Frazier's like, "I feel awful. I've been leading you on all night." And Tom is like, "Oh, it's okay. It's an honest mistake." And Frazier says, "Oh, but I've been pouring you drinks and building up your hopes and making you think you might have found someone sophisticated and sensitive enough."
And Tom like is like, "Frazier, I'll love again."
Right, which is a funny line. He says, like, "Frazier, I'll learn to love again." And again, the studio audience doesn't give Tom anything. Doesn't get not even a chuckle.
Crickets.
It's one of those, and the script didn't cover in the early line. It made me wonder if the crowd is maybe a little unsure on whether or not it's okay to laugh at a gay person's jokes, because it is the early 90s. This is well before Will and Grace, well before again this episode, which the gay character was not the central force and like was largely just a fulcrum by which action took place. And Tom doesn't get the most opportunity, but again, because this is the 90s, this episode won a GLAAD Media Representation Award for outstanding depiction of a gay person, because they weren't a terrible stereotype of a gay person, which is cool, I guess. It's and I will say, considering the time period it's in, Tom has rarely made the butt of the joke, and it's more frequent that it's about Frazier's pompousness or the misunderstanding. It's very Shakespearean. But everything is derived around misunderstanding and miscommunication. And Oscar Wilde, like, "Oh, I thought you said this, but you meant this," which is very literary and fun. And it's never like, "Oh, gays," so that's good.
I feel like it's the type of comedy that Frasier kind of excels at.
Oh, absolutely.
So Frasier sees Tom to the door. Tom's like, "Oh, will you apologize for Daphne with me?" And Frasier's like, "Oh yes, for the rest of my days," because she's never going to let him hear the end of this.
Right.
Tom, as he's leaving, he's like, "Well, so does this mean that your father isn't gay either?" And
Frasier's like, no,
my dad's not gay. He's a man's man.
And then now Tom starts to leave, and then he's like, "But Niles, that guy is for sure gay," and that does get, I think that gets something of a laugh. And Frasier smiles and goes, "No."
So that Maris guy that he kept mentioning, that's a woman.
And Frasier goes, "Well, the jury's still out on that one." And they both have a hearty smile and part ways, and we ease our way into the credits, where Frasier and Daphne are staying up late, smoking and drinking cognac.
Yeah. So yeah, just a sad scene to end on, but it's an accurate depiction of what they're both feeling, because they're pretty much right back where they started.
Yep.
So it's a good episode, and yeah,
it's a great episode. Obviously, very glowingly reviewed. It's pointed to as like,
unless you're Matthew Barr,
right? Matthew Barr, who only gave it a B+, but very award winning. And I had to look up Joe Keenan, the writer, his Wikipedia page. He would go on to write 24 episodes, be the executive producer on 48 episodes, and this is according to some people. And we can I can ask you directly, because you have a pretty good knowledge of Frasier. Some people call this is where Frasier truly hits its stride, is around this episode. It starts to really hit its groove around this point.
I think I kind of have my own opinions on when Frasier hits its stride. But this is without a doubt a good episode. And I feel like we will sort of revisit this type of misunderstanding concepts in future episodes. And I almost kind of prefer what it is, how it's handled in later episodes, but we'll get to that. We will get to that. Oh my gosh. And it's fitting that we've been spending this episode talking about about sons and fathers dating. Geez. Okay. I don't want to spoil anything.
Oh, of course. Of course.
We'll just talk about the upcoming episode, our next episode. So it's called Flower Child.
Flower Child.
Right. So after witnessing a birth, Niles contemplates becoming a parent. Meanwhile, Frazier attempts to retrieve a get well card for a colleague because he wrote an inappropriate message in it.
Oh, perfect. Sounds like some good stuff.
He just wrote like a really racist joke in it.
He wrote some really tactless. He wrote the entirety of the Aristocrats joke, which took up. He actually had to buy a second.
Took up way too much space.
He had to buy a second get well card to finish the rest of the joke on a second card, and then he stapled them together, which isn't even. It's not even what you do, but that's how he did it.
Oh man. Oh well, it hasn't been a good one. There's been borderline homophobia.
No.
It's father-son incest.
Well, hold on, Adam. I don't want you to correct.
Wes, I will see you next week when we re-record this episode.
Sounds like a plan. I'm done. Thank you for having me.
So, good night.
Shit, Adam. Thank you for having me. Would be a great. Great title of a father-son dating show. Coming soon on Fox. Thank you for having me.
From the people.
From the people
who brought you Frazier on Frazier Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Wow. I didn't know we were going to get there, but it's one of those things where right after you say it, it all comes together.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. Frasier on Frazier Podcast wishes to thank KACL780.net for providing episode transcripts and Ronald O'Connell for providing our theme song, Frasier MIDI.